So I love spring. I know that a lot of people suffer with sinus problems. They're either stuffed up or it's draining all over the place, and there are certain things that trigger it. And today's discussion is all about helping you breathe better through natural remedies. Hi, I'm Mary Bourne. I'm a naturopath, actually traditional naturopath, which means I use an eclectic approach to helping people, always with the eye on what's causing the problem and not just addressing the symptoms. So this is one of my monthly classes that we call Herbal Hour. And today's is all about trying to get people to understand the difference types of stimulus that affect the sinuses and getting to the cause of it. So the first thing that, see if I can get there we go. We want to talk about is rhinitis and sinusitis. So rhinitis is an acute inflammation of the nose, eyes, and throat. So you can see here where things are affected and what symptoms might be arising due to these. So it affects about 7% of the population, and seasonal allergy, rhinitis, allergies to pollen, this time of the year is raging. And I really think that's a low estimate because so many people I see are struggling with some form or another. Now, sometimes they just learn to live with it. And I watch a lot of gardening shows, and I want to tell you, almost every one of these gardeners are either rubbing their nose or they're sniffling, or so they maybe don't even recognize that they have this condition. So, but a lot of people, it's absolutely miserable. They wake up with swollen eyes and itchy, and they're actually just miserable. And I feel bad for them because to me, this is such a fabulous time of the year. There's so much energy in the air, and um, going from the dreariness of winter and seeing the just combustion of growth, it's for me one of the most exciting times of the year. I am not a summer person and I really don't mind winter, but spring and fall are my favorite. So I really feel sorry for people that deal with allergies and will the non-seasonal allergic rhinitis are allergies to dust, animal dander, or mold. And non-allergic rhinitis is often due to chemicals. Now, I, when under stress, am a lot more sensitive to like perfumes, or if I go into the grocery store pre-mascara, uh, the scents, I can hardly even go down the detergent aisle because the scents are so strong. And there's such a misuse of chemicals, thinking that they're covering up or cleaning the air, when in fact they're just adding to the pollution of the air, making situations worse. And uh, be aware of these type of chemical so-called deodorizers. So chronic sinusitis is inflammation of the sinuses, and this affects about 13% of the population. So symptoms of allergic rhinitis is sneezing, runny or stuffy nose, itching nose. And so even with little children, you'll see them rubbing their nose. And a lot of times you have to be a detective and determine, is it because they're allergic to something they're eating, or is it because they too are sensitive to some of the pollen that's floating around in the air? We have a row of pine trees in our yard, and about once or twice a week, I have to clean off the tables and chairs and the barbecue because there's this pine dust that filters on, and you can see it. It's a light green in color, actually kind of pretty, but I am grateful that these are not things that bother me, except for the fact that they cause me more work. So dark circles under the eyes are some of the symptoms that you will notice: headaches, sinus headaches, and pressure, coughing, sore or scratchy throat, digestive irritation, gas, loss of appetite, and abdominal discomfort. Now, this actually is a hint at what is causing the problem to begin with. Skin problems and excessive fatigue can be added to these symptoms. Now, an overly sensitive immune system overreacting to substances is one of the underlying situations. And immune system overproduces immunoglobulin E, our IgE antibodies, and the mast cells release histamine. So the mast cells really go into hyper mode, and this causes this tickling and a response in the body to exude some mucus to help get rid of the irritation. So symptoms are designed to flush the irritating substances away from the eyes, nasal passages, and sinuses. So we're going to discuss some of the things that you can do to help clear your sinuses. And if dust and mold are one of the situations, you might look at your bedding and what you're sleeping on as a beginning thing. Change your sheets more often. Don't use the chemical sheets that are supposed to make your sheets smell better. Try the old-fashioned way of hanging them outside and airing them. The bleach from the sun will actually work in your favor and will help with getting rid of some of if there's any kind of mold or whatever. So try different things, but the first thing you can do is omit the chemical softeners like the dryer sheets and things like that. Now, hay fever, seasonal allergic rhinitis, occurs during specific seasons of the year. It is always caused by pollen, and the pollen can be different ones. So it can be tree pollen, like I mentioned about the pine. It can be grass pollens, as well as pollen from the flowers, cottonwood, ragweed, plantain, and dandelion are common culprits. Just think about when the situation is worse. Be a little detective about it. Figure out what your stressors were that day, and perhaps you can come up with a combination of things that help you to deal with this better. And hopefully this class will give you some hints on what you can do to make yourself a lot more comfortable and perhaps even get rid of the irritation. So other forms of rhinitis are non-seasonal allergic rhinitis, allergies to dust, dust mites, animal dander, feathers, and mold. So if you have like a feather pillow, maybe that's creating the situation. If your house is damp, there might be a mold situation. There's a lot of ways to handle. You can get an air purifier that gets rid of the dander and dust, which brings down the dust mites. And non-allergic rhinitis are reactions to chemicals such as household cleaning agents, cosmetics, perfumes, and other chemicals. And that was a big one for me. I really did change. I only use things that I make for my cleaning. I have lots of videos on that if you want to check out my YouTube channel and find different ways that I've created cleaning products from natural means. And there's lots of YouTube videos. There's a video out there that uses ivy. Now, if you have ivy growing near you, you might want to look that up. It's a sweet little video that talks about how you can turn the ivy into a soap. Now, ivy has what's called saponins in it, and a lot of different plants have this, and you can make soap from it. You might have heard about yucca and how it can soap up. So using natural things like that can actually bring down your stress levels. Every time you add a chemical like Febreze in the air, you're adding to the stress levels. And you definitely do not want to spray Febreze around children or especially infants. Do not use anything to chemically perfume anything that children or infants are wearing, their bedding, their diapers. Just stay away from them. You can get these wool balls that help to aerate the clothes while they're drying, and that's what I use, and it does a marvelous job. So you want to block the action of histamine, which is what I referred to in that one slide, and calming that histamine response is going to be huge because that's what the body responds to in drippy nose and irritated eyes, and so it's helping to flush the system. Now, unfortunately, if you use chemical antihistamines, what happens is it dries up. So you flip from being stuffed up to being runny, and you go back and forth. And the side effects of chemical antihistamines can be really hard. It causes fatigue. It can contribute to dry mouth and a bunch of other things. So this thickening of the mucus secretions actually raises the level of toxins in your body, because part of the way the body gets rid of toxins is through using this histamine response and causing the liquids to flush the body. So other side effects are rare, but they sometimes include headaches, malaise, constipation, and dry mouth. Now, a lot of people are suffering with dry mouth and bacterial infections in the mouth due to so much mask wearing. And if you can go without the mask, it is so much better for your oral health. And you might want to talk to your dentist about that, but they're seeing huge levels of decay in the mouth due to bacterial infection, breathing in your own bacteria that you're supposed to be exuding and getting rid of through the respiratory system. So hydration, mucus traps irritants, that's its job. And tears wash away irritants. We know that if we get something in our eye, the objective is to help the body wash it out. You can mechanically wash it out, but usually the body responds by making tears. Dehydration results in dry membranes and eyes, which prevents irritants from being flushed away. There is a condition called sojourns where you have a lack of ability for the eyes to water. They become dry and itchy, and you have to use tear, like a little dropper constantly to make the eye moist. The eye is supposed to have a layer of this thin mucus that it floats in. Otherwise, it becomes very irritated. So histamine draws water to these tissues. And so histamine is not a bad thing. It's when it overreacts that it's a bad thing. Making sure you're drinking enough water and adding a pinch of salt to it is really, really important, especially in the summertime when you're working outside and you're perspiring, you're losing some of your hydration. You have to rehydrate with water. And I found there are several things that help. Liquid chlorophyll helps. It helps to keep the energy levels up. You only need like a teaspoon or a teaspoon and a half in about 10 ounces of water. And that actually helps to raise your energy levels while you're working. There are some fruit juices that I use, like Tigo. I've used lemon juice, and I've even made herbal teas like elderberry tea and use that in my water. But find some way, some natural way to hydrate that will help your body stay moist enough. Now, ephedrine from, we used to have ephedra, and it was a great herb. It actually grows naturally in the West, like in Utah. And it was a great natural antihistamine, but some herbal companies misused it as a weight loss product. And so the FDA took it off the market. Now there is something similar to it called Brigham or Mormon tea, and it has a milder action and it can be useful. But bitter orange is the most noted of the natural antihistamines, and it produces some synephrine, which dries up excess mucus secretions, and it acts as a metabolic stimulant. It's best when you use bitter orange in combination with other things that help the natural mucus to form after you deter the mast cells that are overproducing. Nettle leaf is one of the greatest herbs now. Nettle, stinging nettle, what you want to do with stinging nettle is when you pick it, you want to take from the top, fold this leaf in half, and pick it that way, because the underside has a chemical in it that can cause a lot of itching and a lot of pain. And once this is chopped up, that chemical disperses. And if it's warmed up in any way, like if it's cooked, it also disperses. So it's only when it's being freshly picked that this chemical can be an extreme irritant. So what we found is when you pick nettle, the best thing to do is kind of pinch it between your thumb and your finger and pull it off that way. Nettle leaf is also a wonderful herb for prostate health for men. It's high in zinc, and it seems to help desensitize the mast cells, so it calms them. So between the bitter orange and nettle leaf, it's a really great combination that you can take as a tea, and if you're bothered by histamine reactions in the body. Vitamin C, you know, enough can't be said about vitamin C, how wonderful it is. It doesn't block histamine reactions, but it does help break down histamine so it's not floating through the system. It is also anti-inflammatory, and you want to take about 1,000 milligrams every hour with plenty of water to ease symptoms. Now, there are some powdered forms of vitamin C that you can actually add to the water, and oranges actually don't provide a whole lot of vitamin C. Rose hips are one of the ways that the vitamin C can be, you can get higher amounts of vitamin C through that. So there are bioflavonoids that help as they stabilize the mast cells, and quercetin is one of them. And it's very much in the news. You can read a lot about quercetin, where it comes from, and taking quercetin in supplement form, but it works well in combination with vitamin C. It's found in many foods that are also rich in vitamin C, like red onions, red apples, grapes, berries, and cherries. Elderberries are a source of quercetin, and I personally take 2 elderberry capsules every single day because it really helps with supporting the immune health, and it is safe for children. And so if you have children that are dealing with allergies and they feel miserable, doing an elderberry syrup is one way to help them to drink more water and to get the benefits of elderberries. So it works as a decongestant and anti-allergic. So other herbs for allergic rhinitis, goldenrod, and people look at that and they think, oh my goodness, goldenrod, I'm allergic to goldenrod. Well, you know, it's like different strokes for different folks. And this one works especially well when you have dander allergies, like cat hair, and it works good with eyebright and nettle. Now, eyebright, there have been some difficulty finding good sources of eyebright, and so you might have to grow it if you want it. And that always becomes a little difficult about dosage, whereas when you buy it in supplement form, the dosage is usually recommended on the bottle, and that makes it a lot easier. Ambrosia ragweed is again another one people will in the fall have serious concerns with, because it does have a lot of pollen that floats around, and but it's, again, the homeopathic view of this is that small amounts can actually reduce your allergic reactions. And another herb that's very good is yerba santa. It's a good decongestant for plugged sinuses. So if you're of that concern, you might try that. Now, bee pollen is a way that you can, in very small doses, build up your resistance to some pollen in the air. And if you know a beekeeper that is within 100, 200 yards of you, it really is the best thing, because then those bees are pollinating the plants that are irritating you, and you can start by 1 or 2 granules. Some people actually have to take that granule, smash it up, and mix it with something else, and then take, like applesauce, and then take little bits at a time until they can build their resistance to that particular pollen up. Now, if you're severely allergic to bees, don't try bee pollen. I don't want people coming back to me saying, you told me to take bee pollen. You have to take things and use your own judgment on that. So, but this has worked tremendously well with many people if they can find raw honey from a beekeeper that is not too far distant from their own home. If you're going to buy Costco brand raw honey, this is not necessarily going to help your sinuses. So you can, there's also chewing on beeswax. It's interesting the different things that people have tried to support better sinus health. So sinusitis symptoms, this is a thick nasal discharge, post-nasal drip where it goes down the back of your throat. You have difficulty breathing through the nose, reduced sense of taste and smell because the blocking of that allergic response. Sometimes you will actually have a lack of appetite. There's pain and pressure around the eyes, nose, cheeks, and forehead, so you can see where the sinuses are. There's going to be pressure there, and a lot of times it will be in this area as well, but around the forehead is the most common area. So when the mucus is so congested, it will back up into the eustachian tube. And that's the problem a lot of children have. And this is a sign of a dairy allergy. So the first thing you want to do is take them off of dairy. There may be a gluten sensitivity as well. But the first thing to do is to remove any dairy. You can use like almond milk, or there's a lot of different milk sources out there. But actually, removing the dairy really does seem to help, and the ear pain will go away. I have a wonderful recipe for ear pain that you use garlic and mullein and make an oil out of it. And I have a video on that if you want to look at that on my YouTube channel. Coughing, sore throats, and bad breath, because this heavy mucus is toxic, and that's dripping on the back of your throat. And of course, when you breathe out, that's stinky. So zinc is really, really helpful for this. I've seen many people get good support from taking a zinc lozenge. So acute and chronic sinusitis, acute sinusitis is typically due to an infection. White mucus is probably a viral infection. Yellow mucus may be bacterial. So chronic sinusitis is maybe bacterial, but it is often fungal. And so that's why when children have ear infections, it really is not recommended to do an antibiotic, because 90% of the time it's a fungal infection, and you need to cut down on the mold and dairy. So those are the two things that really, really help. Now, this is something a lot of people will do. Use a neti pot, and you fill it with warm water and some salt, make a saline solution out of it, and you do this over the sink. You tilt your head sideways so an ear is facing the sink, and you put the neti pot in the top nasal opening, and it will flush out the bottom one, and then you turn and do the opposite, and that helps to clear out those sinuses that are congested. Now, a lot of people will do this at night, and then in the morning, they can breathe. So that's one way. You might also want to kill the infection, and liquid silver, silver sol solution will also work. You do not want to use salt with silver because it will deter the silver's ability to kick out the infection. Some of the other things you might take are berberine or golden seal. There's a liquid golden seal in echinacea that is beneficial for children. So supporting the immune system is going to be really helpful. This is another thing you can do, is to put some boiling water into a bowl with some drops of essential oil, and then drape a towel or something over your head, and then breathe in the steam that emits from that hot water and the essential oils. So that's called steam inhalation. And if you're going to do that with a child, you should be facing the child and helping them drape the cover over their heads and make sure that they don't spill that hot liquid on them. Some people just take the pot that they boil the water in. You don't have to be fancy about it. Basically, you want to do this for about 5 or 6 minutes until you can feel yourself breathe freely. And these are some of the essential oils that are most noted for supporting the ability to breathe better. So eucalyptus, pine, thyme, rosemary, ravensara, tea tree, and cajeput. So I like to use a combination of those that I will talk about in a little bit. This is another thing that herbalists have used for years, and it's opening up capsules or taking the dry powder of bayberry root bark and golden seal powder and sniffing it up into the nasal passage with a swift inhale. And what that does is sometimes it causes you to sneeze, but other than that, it actually will help to shrink polyps that are develop in the sinus cavities. So it can fight infection, it shrinks those nasal polyps and loosens mucus to promote drainage. So this is basically for people who have a stuffed up nose and they have been diagnosed with some sinus polyps. So sinus decongestants, fenugreek and thyme, that's an old time solution for benefiting the sinuses, and it is safe for children. You can make a tea out of it and have them drink it. But it's one of the best combinations for decongesting the sinuses. It eases sinus pressure and headaches. Now, fenugreek is a wonderful digestive, and thyme is very good for the thymus gland, which actually is what we call the conductor of the immune system. Yerba Santa is a good general decongestant. Now, horseradish, I have a funny story to tell you about horseradish. One year I decided we had a fabulous juicer called a Walker juicer. I mean, it's like the Cadillac of juicers, and it actually chews up the one aspect of it is it can grind up different herbs and then compress them to make juice out of it. Well, we got a horseradish root and we decided we're going to grind this up. And my husband has suffered from blocked sinuses for a very, very long time. He's had x-rays of the sinuses, and they're huge, you know, due to the pressure over the years. He's been bothered with sinus problems since he was a young child. They wanted to remove his tonsils, and he said no dice. And so the sinuses collect a lot of the infection, and it irritates his sinus, and he's bothered by a lot of different pollens, animal dander, and those type of things. So anyways, we decided, okay, we're going to try this horseradish. So he grabs a spoon and he takes a healthy spoonful of this mashed horseradish, and his face turned absolutely beet red. I thought steam was going to come out of his ears, but man, he sneezed and sneezed, and then within a few minutes, he has never breathed so freely as when he did that. But, you know, it's one of those things that you don't really want to do. But horseradish is very good. Just take it in mild doses, and it can be a wonderful decongestant. Now, burdock is another thing. There are people in Japan that eat burdock regularly. They put it in soup and the root, and it, I think, really helps them to stay healthier. So it relieves sinus congestion. Golden seal is another one. Now, I don't like to use golden seal because it's been endangered. It's been overpicked, and so I always try other things before I try golden seal. It can fight sinus infection and reduce subacute inflammation, but subacute inflammation can be actually dealt with a variety of other herbs. Now, bitter orange is one of my favorite. It dries up excess secretion, and it is a wonderful source of vitamin C. So let's dig deeper into the root causes of why do so many people have sinus congestion and sinus irritation. So if you want to avoid respiratory irritants, you can start with your household cleaning products like I did. I think it helped my husband a great deal when we stopped using Downy softener. It was a huge problem. And we know that dryer sheets are one of the highest, only like 99% of the people that come in and use dryer sheets, once they get rid of the dryer sheets, it really reduces their irritation. So use natural products whenever possible. I have a couple of videos on using natural products for health and cleaning. Wear dust masks when sanding, etc. You know, try to keep the irritants from entering the respiratory system. If air pollution is a problem in your area, consider installing some type of air filtration system. Make sure that your furnace filter is clean. You know, springtime and fall, make that one of your regular things that you do, is to replace your filter. Now, if you have an air conditioner, that's why you'd want to do it in the fall. But if you have, you don't have an air conditioner, you don't have to worry about that. But at least some people like to do it around Christmas time, and again in the spring, ready for fall. So that can be a big thing. And like I said, Febreze, you do not want to use these little tree type stick ups in your car. My goodness, it's a closed in area. You are really irritating the sinuses with these chemical scents. So So you want to eliminate allergy causing foods. And I mentioned before about milk. Dairy is one of the biggest contributors. Now, raw milk is a different story. Raw milk has the enzymes in it that help you digest the milk. But cooked milk, the object of pasteurizing milk was to kill the enzymes, and unfortunately it also killed our ability to digest it. So common food allergies can also include gluten. Some people it's corn. Check, the best thing to do is a food diary. Now, signs that food allergies may be a contributing factor include any of the following. So if you have dark circles under your eyes, redness of the ears, face, or eyes. I even have some people with a nose. The nose is their kind of, they can tell that they're eating something that they shouldn't be, and their nose will itch and get red. Sometimes a glassy look because it causes a brain fog in a lot of people, an increased pulse rate. So you can, there are people that know how to test their pulse, and they'll eat a food and it increases the pulsing of the, when you put your fingers on your wrist. Bloating is also a thing. So some people can't tolerate beans, you know, they have to go very slowly. They need to have enzymes. If you're not taking enzymes after the age of 30, then you're going to have trouble digesting food, because we simply do not have the enough enzymes to deal with the amount of cooked food that we eat. And so therefore, doing things like food enzymes or some kind of a plant enzyme is really helpful. Doing a fermented food every single day is also going to be beneficial for better digestion. So, you know, kombucha or sourdough, it's just, even if you do apple cider vinegar on a daily basis, I like to make my own. I call it apple scrap vinegar. You simply take all of the, like the core and the seeds, and you toss it into a jar, fill it with water, put some sugar in it, and you make your own vinegar. And there are YouTube recipes and videos that show you how to make fruit scrap vinegar, and it's really quite tasty. So a lot of people will say, I'm so tired, and moody. And right away, you want to look at what have you been eating and when did you eat? Because it might be a hypoglycemic thing. Now, there are some people that are sensitive to salicylates and food additives. So sensitivity to this, aspirin is one of the huge contributors to salicylates. Willow is also a natural form of salicylates. Food additives can contribute to chronic sinusitis problems, asthma, and the formation of nasal polyps. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that think that they should be doing an aspirin a day, but that very well may be what's contributing to your allergy overload. So you can find lists of food high in salicylates online, or by purchasing a blood type, pH, and nutrition chart from StephenHorn.com. So reduced symptoms of inflammation, allergies, and sinusitis involve inflammatory responses. So stress, you know, like who doesn't carry stress? Is huge. And so we want to do whatever we can, making sure we're sleeping well at night, we're staying hydrated, and dealing with stress. So remedies that can reduce inflammation can be helpful, like vitamin C, vitamin A, and D. I feel that vitamin D is one of the most recognized deficiency we as Americans have. We have been told for 30, 40 years to use sunscreen to scare us out of skin cancer, and therefore we have been not exposing our body to a good amount of sunlight so that we can use the vitamin D available in the sun, convert it, and get our vitamin D stores up. Now, I don't necessarily recommend long time exposure to the sun, but I do recommend vitamin D3 supplementation. There is a huge mountain of evidence that vitamin D is a contributing, not enough vitamin D is contributing factor to cancer, to diabetes, to many of the conditions that people deal with on a daily basis. So, and it's like the easiest thing to supplement with and cheapest. MSM is a sulfur molecule that helps to reduce inflammation. CoQ10, you have to be living under a rock to not know about CoQ10 these days. It's really, really important, especially if you're taking something that like Lipitor or some kind of anti-cholesterol, cholesterol reducing medication, because it actually robs the body of CoQ10 and the heart needs it. And apparently it is necessary in a lot of the immune system responses. So there's mangosteen, which I take it in the form of the Tigo. I actually add Tigo half and half to my apple cider vinegar on a daily basis. And that's the first thing that hits my body in the morning. So turmeric or curcumin, which curcumin is the active ingredient in turmeric. And that's an excellent anti-inflammatory. So we want to heal the intestinal tract. So imbalances in the friendly microbes of the GI tract, the intestinal inflammation, constipation, and a widening of the gaps in the intestinal membranes. And this widening of the gap of the intestinal membrane is what's called leaky gut. And it's a syndrome. So in other words, it's not a single thing, but we know that stress is involved. We know that bad eating, eating foods that contribute to inflammation are all involved in this syndrome of leaky gut. And that has to be healed before you can get rid of these types of allergies. And they all contribute to weakening of the respiratory system. So the Chinese associate both the colon and the lungs with what's called the metal element. So it's your shield, your guard against disease. And it relates to the body's ability to defend itself. So sword and shield type of thing. And so it is interesting how the Chinese relate our traditional Chinese medicine, that it can, if you're not eliminating your toxins through the colon and the lungs, so in other words, your not ability to get rid of the air type toxins through the lungs, and you know, I don't want to harp on it, but holding it in with a mask is not healthy, never has been, never will be. So you do the best you can at taking that information and using it. So try a colon cleanse, see if you can get the bowel working more efficiently. You know, people bring their animals into the doctor's office if the animal has not had a bowel movement in 2 days, but they don't think anything of themselves not having a bowel movement in a week. And it just is contrary to common sense that you need to eliminate, and if you're not, something is wrong, and so you need to do something about it. So colon cleanses are really popular for that. So keeping the GI tract healthy, you know, we need friendly bacteria. Everybody talks about bacteria as a bad thing, but we know that there are friendly viruses, there are friendly bacteria, and there's a huge balance in our gut between the two of them. the thing you want to make sure is that you're digesting your food properly. Bromelain is a great one. It's a protein digestive enzyme from pineapple. We have a great chewable called papaya mint, and it also can be taken as an after dinner mint, but it helps to post digest food. Now, most digestive enzymes I prefer to people to take after a few mouthfuls of food, and then take your enzymes. Now you want to eliminate unfriendly microbes with berberine, cinnamon, golden seal, or podiarca. Now, I love berberine and cinnamon. I'll switch off between the two of them. Berberine is wonderful for helping with blood sugar balancing. And so there is a great deal of information about cinnamon as well. So eliminate simple carbohydrates, especially refined sugar, because remember what I said about fermentation? Well, that can occur in the gut too. And that's what happens when you get a lot of gas. You have this bad fermentation going on in your gut. So you want to counter it with good fermentation. Bacillus coagulans is a great probiotic that is shelf stable. It can help with balancing the gut. I actually like to rotate. I'll take some probiotic 11, I'll take bacillus coagulans, I'll take the a bunch of different ones, bifidobacteria, because your gut really does have quite a lot of different types of microbes, and encouraging good microbe environment in the gut is one of the things that will keep you healthy, not only your gut, but your whole body. So there are some natural alternatives. I love this ALJ. It was we had an herbalist named Jeannie Burgess, and she developed this recipe, and Nature Sunshine carried it. And we thank Jeannie for her insight on this fabulous formula. The capsules have been renamed as Seasonal Allergy Formula, and it has boneset, fenugreek, horseradish root, and mullein. So again, when you're taking that horseradish, you want to take something that is what we call a mucogenic, and that mullein is a very wonderful herb that encourages thin, usable mucus. And so taking that with the horseradish is really beneficial. This formula has helped many people put away their inhalers for life. So, it's not being able to breathe is something that can be extremely scary. And so and you can only take so much of those chemicals that make you sick, and you just don't want to live your life attached to an inhaler. And I have a dear friend, Kathy, who did that. She got rid of her inhaler and has not had to use one, and I want to say over 5 years. So a good decongestant to relieve sinus and lung congestion. You make sure that you're taking your water, because remember, hydration is huge. It helps to loosen and expel mucus. And there are stories about young children taking the liquid ALJ. And it's recommended that you just take a few drops every 15 or 20 minutes. And by doing that, they actually threw up a ball like a cat does, fur ball. And this was a mucus ball. And when that child threw that up, immediately could breathe better and didn't have to use any more of the ALJ, that it was able to mount the energy necessary to get rid of that thickened mucus that had been bothering the child and making him cough. And it was, it's not something we want to think of as the desired thing to do, but actually the long-lasting effect of it was really huge. So you can combine fenugreek and thyme, and that helps the allergy work better, because then you're working on the immune system, the digestive system, and the respiratory system all at the same time. So these, it actually can work with not only seasonal allergies, but food allergies. Now we have a histoblock formula. You know, you got the drippy eyes, the eyes are itchy, the nose, so you know you have an over response of those mast cells. And as I mentioned before, nettle leaf, quercetin, bitter orange, and bromelain. So it's got all four of the things that we mentioned earlier. And it's a great alternative to over-the-counter antihistamines without any side effects. You know, it's just a fabulous herb. I've had it, I've used this formula for if people are overreactive to mosquito bites, any kind of histamine response. It reduces the over response from the mast cells, which not only happens in the nasal passages, but all over the body. So if you have hives or any kind of histamine reaction, and the liquid of the body causes this itching and irritation, to take a couple of histoblock every half hour can really, really help. Sinus support, I've actually taken this at night, in the middle of the night. I've eaten ice cream or some kind of a thing that I know I shouldn't have, and my breathing gets difficult and I start coughing. I'll take a couple of sinus support and bingo, I'm back to sleep in about 15 minutes. Really is fabulous. It's got the burdock roots, golden seal root and rhizome. It's got horehound leaf and flower. Now that's an old time herb. It's got the bitter orange, and it can help with sinus congestion. It works better if combined with fenugreek and thyme, but I've actually just used it on its own, and it's been a fabulous support for me. I won't be without it. So some people take it first thing in the morning. Other people take it just before bed. It does not have the ephedra in it. It used to have ephedra in it, and that's why you couldn't take it at night. But, you know, thanks to the FDA, we no longer have ephedra, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, this is an essential oil blend that I actually love. No, this is the Chinese formula. We'll get to the essential oil blend in a minute. So the Chinese would consider this a formula for a stressed medical condition. Remember, we said swords and shields. So Breathe Activator provides nutritional compounds long known to benefit the respiratory system. The combination of ingredients may help the bronchioles to clear waste and maintain lung health. It also encourages the production of mucus to aid in cleansing the respiratory tract. So this is when you're stuffed up, you know, you can't breathe and you're stuffed up. That is the time to take Breathe Activator. This is not when the mast cells are overproducing, and you do not take Histoblock and Breathe Activator at the same time, nor do you take ALJ and Histoblock at the same time, because they counterproduce. You know, one is trying to encourage mucus production and the other one is discouraging it. So specifically, citrus peel and schizandra support the body's efforts to clear waste from the respiratory system and enhance energy in the lungs. And so we know that this is what the body's ultimate goal is to get rid of the irritant. And so Breathe Activator can help with it. Now this is my favorite essential oil. The blend of lemon, orange, eucalyptus, spearmint, cypress, fir, ravensara, and tea tree is just so lovely. I will actually put a little dab of aloe vera gel in the palm of my hand and drip 3 or 4 drops of the Breathe Deep, rub my hands together and rub it on my chest, and oh my goodness, it helps me sleep like a baby. And other people have used this just using an aromatherapy emitter and putting it on during the night. It can really be helpful. It works great as a cleaner disinfectant on most surfaces. And some people will mix it with almond oil, so a tablespoon of almond oil or grapeseed oil and 10 drops of the Breathe Deep. And it helps to condition wood cutting boards. So it basically gets rid of, it's a disinfectant, so it gets rid of any microbes that may be lingering inside that wood cutting board. So and it conditions the wood at the same time. So it's really a wonderful oil that can be used for a variety of things, but I especially love it for nighttime sleeping better. So be sure to contact the person that directed you to this video and ask them about the 25% off your first order when ordering Nature Sunshine products. I've been using Nature Sunshine products with my family for over 40 years, and I truly, truly love it. It's been a blessing for us in our lives, and hopefully you can enjoy spring again. I want to thank you for viewing this video. Please share it with other people. And if you haven't subscribed to my Health to Home, do that as well. And remember that natural remedies have been used on humans for hundreds, even thousands of years because they work. And if you'd like to contact me for personal health issues, then you can email me, Dr. Mary at bornforhealth.com. And be sure to check the description below for the 25% coupon. So again, thank you for viewing. And this is Dr. Mary for the Health of It.